I'm Johnny Ashley in the Hood in the Woods, your neighborhood backwoods history and travel channel. You can find me on Facebook as The Real Hood in the Woods and on Instagram as Abandoned in Appalachia. Now, if you'd like to help me out, throw a couple bucks to my gas tank, I'll have a link for my PayPal in the description. Another way you can help me out and help yourself out too is get yourself the official copy of the Hood in the Woods book, Volume 1. What we're going to do is we're going to follow Craig Creek down to the James River, and then the James River down to where it meets Catawba Creek. So everything that we're going to do is going to be in this little valley here. Now we got a couple communities and a couple other things we're going to check out, right? But now a couple of these communities, they might be what you would call a ghost town. But to me, I'm not going to call them a ghost town because the post office is still open. Nonetheless, they're fascinating and we're going to check them out. But we are going to stop at the real ghost town of Lignite. In 1878, the Eagle Rock Co-op Association bought 1 acre of land for $40. They began to produce limestone. It was sold to farmers as fertilizer, to make whitewash paint, and also to the local furnaces to make iron. To make 1 ton of iron, you need 5,000 pounds of iron ore, 800 pounds of limestone, and 120 bushels of coal or charcoal. This is before the railroad reached here. The quarry was on the other side of the creek, so they built a bridge, and the limestone was pulled across the bridge in wagons. They ran out of money, and the kiln was sold to the F.E. Sheets Company for $5,000 in 1881. In 1885, the Moore Limestone Company bought the kilns and all improvements. The F.E. Sheets Company, they only held on to the company store. In 1905, the McMurray family of Rockland, Maine started a successful limestone business on the south side of the river. They built 4 more kilns, the last one being built in 1917. Between the two companies, there was 9 kilns. In 1933, Moore Limestone was bought by Virginia Lime Products. In 1942, Eagle Rock Limestone, on the south side of the river, they bought out all the Eagle Rock holdings from Virginia Lime Products. Operations continued until 1954. That year marked the end of production of limestone in Eagle Rock. In all, those two companies employed over 100 people. The Eagle Rock High School closed in the 1950s. This is the Phoenix Bridge. It was built in 1887 by the Phoenix Bridge Company from Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. In 1975, it was added to the National Historic Registry. It is a trapezoid truss bridge over Craig Creek near Eagle Rock. The Phoenix Bridge Company revolutionized the bridge industry. They began making bridges out of small parts and then pinning them together. It made the bridge easier to construct, transport, and repair when it was damaged. In 1884, they began selling catalog bridges. And what that was, you just go to the showroom, pick out what parts you want, they drop it off for you, and you could just assemble it. It was kind of like a Sears house, but for bridges. The Phoenix Bridge Company was a subsidiary of the Phoenix Iron Company. This is kind of like the first thing I want to point out to you when we come up on the bridge. Is actually not on the bridge, but you can see there's just old foundations and stuff down in the woods. When we come up here, so once you kind of just check out the top of it and check out how ornate it is, and then underneath it on that second truss, check out the nice little designs that they have right in the bridge. And when you come up here, I guess this is what we'll call the classic construction of it's a wood bridge. And up here, so you see these this big old joint here that has all these trusses coming down. This is what they're talking about as them being individual pieces and then pinned coming down like this. And then if we look down and you can see how they're making them crosses like that, that's that hexagon shape that they're talking about. Welcome to the real ghost town of Lignite. Lignite was founded in the late 1880s by the Allegheny Ore and Iron Company. The town was named after the type of coal they mined, lignite. It's a low quality coal and it's called brown coal. In the 1920s, a better vein of coal was found in Coachville, Pennsylvania. The company dismantled the school, theater, library, hospital, post office, and company store, loaded them up on a train, moved them out to Pennsylvania, and reassembled them. In Pennsylvania, they operated under the name the Lucan Steel Company. Some houses were left and people took them over. Soon the town was populated again with people living in the abandoned homes. In 1950, the land became part of the Jefferson National Forest. The Park Service came in and they forced everybody out. Since then, the homes have been reclaimed by nature. This is Iron Gate. In the 1880s, the Allegheny Iron and Ore Company opened a blast furnace here. The town's also next to the railroad. In 1890, the population of Iron Gate was 199 people. The blast furnace closed in 1919. They got outpriced by ore from Minnesota. The population of Iron Gate peaked in 1930 with 777 people. Soon after the furnace opened, a tannery opened here. It ran until 1951 and was operated by U.S. Leather. During that era, the use of leather began to decline. It was being replaced by rubber and plastic. So in 1954, the H.O. Canfield Company opened up a leather plant in the old tannery. At one point, they employed almost 400 people. The plant switched hands several times since then, and now it's a trucking warehouse. Iron Gate was predicted to be one of the biggest cities in the state. Fortunes were lost as real estate speculators would pay up to $500 for a plot of land. That same plot of land would later sell for $10. Now about 357 people live in Iron Gate. This is the Roaring Run hot blast furnace. It was owned by Mr. Dean of Lynchburg and Mr. Robinson of Richmond. When it was built, it was 36 miles away from the Bonnesac station of the Virginia and Tennessee Railroad. It was built in 1832 and rebuilt in 1847. During 35 weeks in 1854, it produced 800 tons of iron. This pit right here is why it was called a blast furnace. Water would be channeled through here. In this pit there would be a big wheel. The water would spin the wheel. That wheel would blow air into the fire, making the fire hotter. The lignite coal worked fine in a furnace like this, but it didn't produce the high temperatures needed to make steel. The land that Clifton Forge sits on has been settled since the 1770s. By the 1820s, a community had formed on the land. It was called Williamson. Mr. Alexander of Lexington, he owned a forge in the nearby hills. He named the forge Clifton after his father's estate, and the name stuck. No longer was it Williamson, but now it was the town of Clifton Forge. In 1857, the first passenger train arrived in Clifton Forge. In 1867, the Covington and Ohio Railroad merged with the Central Virginia Railroad. They formed the Chesapeake and Ohio. The C&O Railroad was key to the growth of the region. By 1878, Clifton Forge had become a major junction for the railway, sitting on its east and west dividing point. The railroad sold plots of land in the town. They also built a hotel and a hospital. Soon the C&O Railroad had built a maintenance facility here. The town boomed, with the railroad employing 2,000 people. As they began using diesel engines in the 1950s, they built a new maintenance facility in West Virginia. Lots of the jobs left here. In 1897, the Clifton Forge Mutual Telephone Company was started by Mr. Watts. In 1929, the Clifton Ford Telephone Company merged with the Waynesboro Telephone Company. They formed the Clifton Ford Waynesboro Mutual Telephone Company. In the 1990s, that company was bought by Intellis, and a variation of that company still is in operation today. Coca-Cola had a bottling plant here. The population of Clifton Forge was 1790 and 1890. It peaked at 1930 with 68,000. Now it's got about half of that, with 3,400. In 1893, the Clifton Forge school system merged with the counties. If you like checking out these old towns with me, I recommend you check out Friendly Gary or Cursed Ivanhoe.